just come back from the Berlin conference of the World Health Organization called the World Health Summit. Thousands of delegates from nearly 200 countries meeting to chew over the pandemic, talk about a new international pandemic treaty, and generally rejoice in their new power over you and me. We had 5 staff there, 3 on-air reporters and 2 producers and editors to help them out. Tamara, Alexa, Andrea, just amazing. Got a lot more footage to come from them too. And very soon we'll show you the news from another globalist gathering, this one called the C40 Summit. David Menzies talked a bit about them earlier this summer. Here's a flashback to that.
So I was most curious to come across a document called C40 Cities, subtitled, quote, "A global network of mayors taking urgent action to confront the climate crisis and create a future where everyone can thrive," end quote. Now, as an aside, I'm so confused here. Are we currently living through a climate crisis or a climate emergency, or is it a climate disaster? I mean, can't the Greta Thunberg acolytes settle on one consistent scare word when it's attached to the word climate?
How dare you?
But back to the C40, which is not, thankfully, a type of explosive. Rather, it is a collection of almost 100 mayors of major cities who, jet set to Copenhagen or wherever and assemble like the mighty Avengers, except none of these cats have any superpowers. Here's an excerpt from their PR video. I wonder how much carbon was used to produce this opus.
I hear people say your future's bright. But after this past year, I wonder if that's still true. When I see the news, sometimes I'm overwhelmed. What's going to happen to my family, to our planet, to the animals, to my friends, to me?
Make no mistake, we are in the midst of the fight for our lives, for our planet, our people, and our shared future.
Cutting emissions in half by 2030, in less than 8 years, right? Well, as ex-Ontario Premier Kathleen Wynne would say, that's a stretch goal. And that last line in the video about changing the trajectory our planet is on, that sounds like a job for Superman, not a bunch of very ordinary politicians. I mean, come on, Toronto Mayor John Tory is somehow going to change the planet's trajectory? Give me a break. I mean, back in 2020, it took Mayor Milquetoast 3 weeks to clear a bunch of hobos operating under the banner of Afro-Indigenous Rising out of Nathan Phillips Square. And once they were booted from the grounds of City Hall, they merely marched northwest to Dufferin Grove Park and turned that parkland into a hellhole for a good chunk of the summer, too. We were there for cleanup time. Check it out.
Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm just reading your breast. What does that say exactly?
It says no justice, no peace.
So the mayor's against meat. The mayor's against using carbon. Oh, but they don't mean for themselves. Their big mayor's convention is in beautiful Buenos Aires, Argentina. That's a long jet flight from just about anywhere. And no, they're not eating Beyond Meat veggie burgers, I can assure you. So we're going to give you the coverage from there. 2 of our journalists, Lincoln Jay from Ontario and Katie Davis-Court from Seattle, went down there, but not first class. They went economy class the whole way. But why? Why would we do that? I was thinking about that over the weekend, and I wrote a 3-page memo to our entire staff explaining my thinking and what I think is the value of these trips to our viewers. So, frankly, I propose just to literally read to you my memo. I know reading a memo might sound boring, but I want to tell you exactly what I told our team. We need to explain how Rebel News will cover this differently than the media party would, to make the case that it's important that we're there because we will ask questions that no one else would, and that, frankly, the mayors don't want asked. Why is it important that we're there? Why is it important that any media go at all? And why must that media be independent citizen journalists who take no government funds? Because this C40 conference is the essential globalist strategy: create laws and policies outside of local, sovereign, legal, accountable city councils City councils are bad enough. They're usually left-wing, often corrupt, and generally awful. But by taking the mayors out of them and jetting off to a faraway meeting, the globalists achieve a few things. Like Davos, like UN conferences, C40 is outside the democratic structures that are designed to act as checks and balances on politicians. At least at city councils, you have debates, you have transcripts of debates, you have committee hearings where the public can give input, you have public agendas with notice given to the people, you have a press corps with some sort of institutionalized access to politicians and documents and plans and agendas. You have lobbyist registries. People can see things. None of that happens at these globalist getaways. So instead of what little transparency and checks and balances our city councils have, you have private oligarch-designed conclaves, secret, privately curated. Billionaires. I mean, look at this list of sponsors. Soros's Open Society is one of them. There's no lobbyist registry. It's all lobbyists. It's all dark money. It's all billionaire agendas. There is no open debate or discussion, no way for citizens to be involved. It's a private club that you're not invited to. What kind of mayor would agree to go to that and would go there to do the city's business in secret, in a foreign land, taking direction from foreign billionaires and lobbyists? So the process is corrupt. It is inherently democratically illegitimate. Even to go there is to thumb your nose at local democracy, to say you value foreign oligarchs' opinions more than you value your own neighbors and voters. But of course, it's not just an undemocratic world government process. It's the substance. Imagine the hubris of jetting to Buenos Aires and staying at a luxury hotel paid for by billionaire patrons while concocting plans to make the little people use less energy. Outrageous. But part of the psychological effect upon the mayors and their staff who attend is to create an elite consciousness. That these are the special, world-class elites, the elevated ones, the high-minded ones who need to meet in the clean, pure, curated places, far from the dirty peasants, far from the nosy journalists, far from any alt-right, racist, transphobic, MAGA opponents who just don't get it. Is to create a kind of split personality amongst the mayors who go to it. They live in the dirty streets when they're back in their city councils, where they have to go through the motions of being democratically accountable. But then, every once in a while, they get to jet their way to a privileged getaway with the other people who really matter, where they can drop the pretense of having to listen to the little people and be amongst the Illuminati who just want to get things done and know the right way, the utopians who don't have time for the people. That's why we're going. Because we are amongst the very few journalists in the entire world who believe in local and national sovereignty, who believe in popular democracy, not oligarchic elitism. And we are skeptical of the inherently communist scheme to revolutionize the entire energy economy and create mass energy poverty for the many, but private jet getaways for the few. That's my philosophy for why we go to UN events or other globalist conclaves. We need to shine a light of public scrutiny on them. We need to ask the so-called Democrats why they're participating in secret meetings with secret funders rather than using our democratic institutions at home. And we need to challenge the absolute BS ideas they propose. Don't use energy, don't eat real food, depopulate the world, oligarchs over Democrats, etc. So let's make sure, I wrote to our staff, that we explain why it's important Rebel News is there. And by that, I mean to explain why our coverage is different from what anyone else would do and is so necessary. So that's my memo. I think that's why we care about these meetings. It's why we went to the World Health Organization in Berlin. It's why we're going next month to the UN's Global Warming Convention in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. Because imagine the audacity of flying by jet to Egypt. It's the only way to get there. And staying in a high-energy conference center. Imagine how much air conditioning is needed there. It was 30 degrees Celsius there today, I checked. And the luxury lifestyle. There are no electric cars there. It's all limousines and SUVs. Imagine flying there and agreeing with other grandees to tax farmers and tax truckers and other poor schleps. Imagine that split personality necessary to do that. Away from local democratic scrutiny, away from a free and open media, away from checks and balances, just private clubs paid for by big corporations and oligarchs. What you just saw was an excerpt from my nightly show, the Ezra Levant Show. Every weekday I do a monologue. Usually it's about half an hour. Then I interview an interesting guest, and then we read my hate mail or my fan mail, whichever is more fun. It's only available behind a paywall, though. That's how we pay our bills here at Rebel News. We don't take a dime from Justin Trudeau. But the good news is it's only $8 a month, about half the price of Netflix. And in addition to my nightly show, you also get weekly shows from 4 other friends here at Rebel News. So you're getting 36 shows a month just for $8. I think it's worth it. And even if you're not quite sure, do it anyways, because we rely on viewers like you to keep us free and independent. I promise you I'll never take a dime from Trudeau. Just go to rebelnewsplus.com and click subscribe. Thanks.